Hello and welcome to another weekly analysis behind the news. With all the hysterics that were built up to last week's inauguration of the 45th President of the United States, the day culminated in Donald Trump actually being sworn in, never mind the fact that CNN aired a what-if scenario that highlighted a line of succession that led back to the Obama administration. With all the security precautions and wasted millions and pomp and circumstance, a casual observer would wonder if royalty were in town. We place way too much emphasis on this largely symbolic ceremony, yet it is important to point out that the transfer of power in a constitutional republic is much more peaceful than in other forms of government around the globe. Communists and their allies, of course, fulfilled their role in being the objectors to America's choice of president by street protesting, though much of the wind was taken out of their sails by exposure of their disruptive plans ahead of time. However, here you saw protesters carrying signs that said they were for peace and love and against hate, but their actions and rhetoric were quite the opposite. They had indeed become what they were protesting. And as far as the Women's March the day after, self-described lifelong liberal feminist writer Ezra Naomani said it best in the New York Times when she wrote, "The march really isn't a women's march. It's a march for women who are anti-Trump." And in her research, she was able to identify 59 organizations funded by George Soros that were among the 402 partner organizations for the march. She says not to believe media reports that this was a spontaneous uprising. She concludes the article by stating that the Women's March doesn't have a place for women like her. And it is events like this that help to show the level of organization that truly exists behind the scenes. Soros wrote an opinion piece at the end of last month where he called Trump a con man and would-be dictator. He said the same thing at the Davos Economic Summit where Joe Biden, in his last week as vice president, warned that the progressive democratic world order is at risk of collapse. Now, his opinion is not new or even original. In fact, the World Economic Forum, which is the organizer of the annual Davos meeting, published a white paper titled Strengthening the Liberal World Order in April of last year. Written by the Global Agenda Council on the United States, members of this council include at least two members of the Council on Foreign Relations, a former National Security Advisor to Senator John McCain, the editor of Politico, various law and business professors, and heads of international councils. The paper defines a liberal world order as one that declares a certain set of principles, which are a belief that the rights of the individual are primary, that it is the responsibility of governments to protect those rights, and that democratic government, in particular, offers the best chance for human dignity, justice, and freedom. It continues, to strengthen and preserve this order, however, will require a renewal of American leadership in the international system. The present world order has been forged by many hands and peoples, but the role of the United States in both shaping and defending it has been critical. American military power, the dynamism of the U.S. economy, and the great number of close allies and friendships that the United States enjoys with other powers and peoples have provided the critical architecture in which this liberal world order has flourished. A weakening of America's commitment or its capabilities, or both, would invariably lead to its collapse. On June 26, 2016, Foreign Policy, which is a globalist magazine published by the Washington Post, started to ring the Pavlov bell for globalists when it ran the article, The Collapse of the Liberal World Order. It stated, the United States and its democratic allies had defeated fascism and then communism, supposedly leaving humankind at the end of history. This was at the end of World War II. The European Union seemed like a bold experiment in shared sovereignty that had banished war from most of Europe. Indeed, many Europeans believed its unique combination of democratic institutions, integrated markets, the rule of law, and open borders made Europe's civilian power an equal, if not superior, counterpart to the crude hard power of the United States. For its part, the United States committed itself to enlarging the sphere of democratic rule, getting rid of pesky autocrats, solidifying the democratic peace, and thereby ushering in a benevolent and enduring world order. In other words, America had turned its back on limited government under the Constitution. It no longer took the Founding Fathers' advice in not looking for monsters to slay and minding its own business, and it looked to borders of this country as impediments to a global economy and labeled constitutional adherents as racist, anti-Semitic, and domestic terrorists. In short, the American experiment in liberty was on life support. And last month, in their Foreign Affairs magazine, the Council on Foreign Relations asked the question, will the liberal order survive? They wrote, leadership is not the same as domination, and Washington's role in helping stabilize the world and underwrite its continued progress may be even more important now than ever. Americans and others may not notice the security and prosperity that the liberal order provides until they are gone, but by then it may be too late. Notice how they use the term security and prosperity as a smokescreen for their unconstitutional agenda? Mid-last week, CNN published the article, Trump's New World Disorder, and stated, it all means that the 45th president will take office with foreign allies and adversaries alike puzzled, and in some cases alarmed, that the certainties which have underpinned U.S. foreign policy for generations no longer seem to apply. America always looked to for stability, continuity, and as a guarantor of the liberal world order, now could become, under Trump, one of the most disruptive global forces, at least if he follows through on his threats. Folks, it's only a few days into the Trump administration, but the advocates of globalization and a new world order have been raising the alarm about Trump for months. Will he lead the way to rolling back this progressive agenda, as they surmise? Well, it's reported that today he took action to pull us out of the TPP and gave official notice that NAFTA was to be renegotiated beginning with a meeting with Mexico next week. The New American is closely following President Trump's first 100 days, with entries being added daily. Check it out regularly at thenewamerican.com. Judge for yourself if he will indeed keep America first, or if the globalists will find a way to infiltrate or react him into supporting their agenda for a liberal world order. As history has demonstrated over and over again, politics is perception. Ask anyone on the street how well Congress is doing, and you'll hear that, well, they're doing terrible. But ask how well their individual congressman does, more often than not, their congressman is the best. And how can that be? Perception. The average voter really has no idea how his congressman votes. He only hears the talking points and the platitudes that his congressman tells him. Democrats and some neoconservatives have used perception to motivate their base around the policies that have placed liberty and independence last on their priority list. Perception is why hundreds of thousands can march for women, but ignore the grisly reality that they are supporting the willful killing of their unborn children. And we will see if the perception of Trump being anti-establishment bores itself out. We will indeed have to watch closely if any trade negotiations hamper in any way the independence of the country or the liberties of citizens. So far, details have been sparse, but the fact that this is occurring definitely is a step in the right direction. The John Birch Society has been exposing and battling through education the liberal world order since day one, nearly 60 years ago. There is no better time to get involved than now. Join or donate to the John Birch Society today. Visit jbs.org for more information. And be sure to like and share this video with family and friends. Sign up for our e-newsletters and subscribe to our social media channels. Until next week, we'll see you then.